So, other unique characteristics that we only see in mammals. First, different types of teeth is an interesting development. And you see the full range of teeth, particularly in omnivores. But everything from what we can see in this image of this cat, having incisors, canines, premolars, and then in some instances you'll see molars in the back for grinding. Having different kinds of teeth like that for different functions is uniquely mammalian. Sweat glands. Having glands that will put out a liquid that is both getting rid of waste and cooling the body is an important evolutionary adaptation that we see in mammals. A four-chambered heart. Again, this is not unique. We saw this in birds, we saw this in crocodilians, but it is a more efficient way of separating oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. And then a large cerebrum that allows us to have a brain that will function in learning, memory, and problem solving. It shows up in both predator animals that are hunting for their food and prey animals that are trying to more cleverly escape being food. All right, so let's look at glands, hair, temperature regulation, and movement. It's a lot of topics we'll kind of shoehorn in here. So what are some of the developments under the skin? Most mammals have cells that have glands that will produce hair. So we actually have little glands that are inside of your skin cells that create hair follicles. Oil, proteins. So the oil that comes out in your hair kind of protects and moisturizes hair. And when you wash your hair, you're getting rid of some of those excess oils and proteins that help strengthen and protect your hair. We have these glands called sebaceous glands. The oil is specifically associated with hair growth. It helps lubricate, keep the hair smooth and waterproof. Just like we see preening in birds where they take their feathers and they push oil secreted from the base of the feather out to the length of the feather to kind of protect and waterproof the feather. The same thing happens with hair in mammals. Sweat glands, they secrete salt, urea, and water. The salt helps it dry quickly. Urea is a waste product that we're getting rid of, which we've seen other organisms get rid of waste products through their skin. And the water is the thing that evaporates, and when it evaporates, it is pulling heat away from the body, cooling us off. Scent or musk glands, located around the face, feet, or anus that secrete pheromones. These chemicals may be involved in defense, species, sex recognition, territorial behavior. If you have ever seen a dog or a cat marking territory, what they are doing is they're saying, hey, I'm here. Sometimes they do marking for reproductive reasons to indicate that they are receptive for reproduction. Sometimes it's to let another group of organisms know that they're occupying that space. Wolves mark their territory along their borders, and it tells other packs of wolves that that area is already patrolled and hunted, avoids some of the conflict that could come about from them both being in the same area. What do glands in the skin look like? If we take a cross-section of skin, you can see the hair shaft kind of extended up through the skin. Sweat glands are also located in the skin and extend up to the surface. The sebaceous gland, the oil glands that are located around the shaft of the hair follicle, and that slowly as the hair grows out, the oil will get pushed out with the hair. You can see the blood flow that goes through the skin. The red indicates arteries, so pushing oxygenated blood out. Blue indicates veins, pulling deoxygenated blood back. So hair. Hair is a characteristic of all mammals. Figure A shows the hair root that all dolphins have buried in their skin. So you may not think of a dolphin having hair, but they do. When they are juvenile, they actually have hairs that stick out right around the time of birth. They have little whiskers that stick out on the front of their head. Figure D, you can see those pits. Each below has a root, hair root that's growing beneath it. They lose those, and as they're adults, they don't have hair sticking out of those follicles, but they exist when they are young. Mammals are endothermic. We maintain our own constant body temperature regardless of the environment that we're in. Your body is maintaining a temperature somewhere around 98.6, 98.7, and through that process, we are burning food to maintain that level, that body temperature. You've got a hypothalamus, part of your brain, that controls and monitors that. If it starts to drop, your body temperature increases by increasing your metabolic rate. Your blood pumps faster to pump warmer blood from inside your body to the outer edges. By decreasing metabolic rate, your body can decrease your temperature, so you can kind of adjust. You probably have heard in a health class that it takes about 2,000 calories a day for a normal adult to function, and that 2,000 calories of food that you take in a day is pretty universal, except when you go to conditions that are very different. People who live in Arctic research stations will sometimes take in double that amount of calories every day and potentially still lose weight because in the cold temperature, their bodies are burning more food to maintain the energy to keep their body temperatures the same. The ability to widen or constrict blood vessels provides another means by which heat can be carried or restricted from parts of a mammal's body. Behavior helps regulate body temperature. If you've ever seen animals huddle together for warmth, go into cool burrows in the desert to avoid the extreme heat of the day. We actually can adjust the closeness of the blood flow to the surface of our skin to adjust our heat loss. There's some research into goosebumps. When you get a chill, when you get cold, you get goosebumps. Your skin is prickling up. It's changing the way the blood flow through your skin works and making it more difficult for you to lose heat. Mammals are the only animals that have hair covering their body. Hair is a rod of cells strengthened by the protein keratin. We've seen that before. When we started looking at reptiles, we saw it in the sheath of material around the carapace in a turtle and the plastron of a turtle. Different types of hair mammals have include fur, whiskers, spines, horns. Even our fingernails are made up of this same hair material. Fur provides protection for the skin. You are less likely to be injured in areas that have protective hair covering. Since I started shaving my head, I have scratched my head more than I ever did back when I had lots of hair. If you bump your head, now with no hair, I'm at risk of having an injury. If I had hair there, it acts as a cushion that slows that impact and makes it a little easier to avoid injury. Insulation. It maintains warmth. I definitely have to make sure I wear a hat when I go out in the winter now. Whiskers provide sensory information for animals. Cats' whiskers, dogs' whiskers, they use that to actually feel around in their environment. Spines, like the quills of a porcupine, offer protection. Those spines make it so that predators get stuck in the face if they go in to try to bite them. Mammals' unique adaptations have made them very successful. Ability to regulate their own body temperature allows them to live in a wide variety of habitats, including land, air, and water. We've been very successful in all kinds of habitats because of our ability to adapt. Most mammals, or many mammals, have many unique adaptations to help them succeed in these environments. Everything from flying squirrels, humans being able to go from everything to tropical to Arctic conditions and survive because of how we adapt and change our environment around us. Bats flying, dolphins and whales swimming. So mammals occupy every ecological niche. Structure of claws, nails, and hooves. So let's kind of dig into that a little bit. You can see in this picture at the top we have what looks like a dog's paw. You can see a human finger bone, and you can see at the bottom a horse's hoof. So we have the same kind of materials that make up the components of either the claw, the hoof, the fingernail, and the base layer that grows underneath it. So same material growing out. The location of the bone relative to that definitely is a little bit different in some of these cases. In some cases it grows as a sheath around the bone. In other cases the bone is under the skin And the nail does offer some protection, but it's not wrapped around the bone. Mammals move in a variety of ways. Most mammals use forelimbs, are quadrupedal or tetrapods. Others use two limbs. For example, human beings are bipedal. Dolphins have an aquatic lifestyle, swimming in the water, flippers that help guide them through the water. This is an example of convergent evolution. They start to look more like fish because they live in an environment that's the same as a fish. The jaguar is a terrestrial carnivore that has explosive running power, adapted for speed on land. Bats have wings allowing them to inhabit the skies. We've already seen the flying squirrels that are actually really more gliders than they are flyers. Perhaps someday they will evolve the ability to fly independently as they switch from a tree down method of gliding. Feeding, respiration, and metabolism. Feeding, every mammal starts off with the ability to get nutrition, to get food from mom. Again, mama, mammal, mammary glands all share that common root. Mammary glands are glands that are found in both sexes. So it doesn't matter, male or female, every individual has the mammary glands, but hormonally they are usually only activated in females around the time of giving birth. They produce milk. Milk is a combination of mostly water, carbohydrates in the form of lactose, a sugar, fats, proteins, minerals, and even some antibodies that help boost the immune system. And they are used to feed the young. So what that looks like varies. Everything from the monotremes, the prototherians that have basically glands that ooze milk through the skin, and their young will lap up the milk from the skin all the way up to nipples, which are attachment points where the offspring can directly get the food. So here is an example of how this works in humans at the top versus a cow at the bottom. You can see that there's some fat protective material. There's tissue around the nipple. The milk ducts open up at the edge of the nipple. There are some sebaceous glands around that area, and the mammary glands are inside of that tissue, inside of the breast tissue, versus in a cow where there's actually there are cisterns, areas where milk will build up. And if you've ever had the opportunity to milk a cow, you're not actually pulling on the mammary glands, you're actually pulling the milk out of the cisterns, basically little storage areas where the milk builds up. Mammals have different teeth for different purposes. What we saw in reptiles is something that's called homodont dentition. Homodont means same teeth. All teeth look the same. This is very common in reptiles. They will have what's called socket teeth. The teeth kind of plug into sockets in the lower jaw. And there's not much difference. They're all very uniform in shape. However, in mammals, we see something called heterodont dentition. Mammals have teeth that are adapted to different uses based on the diet. If you see an omnivore, they tend to have teeth that are all very evenly sized and spaced. However, if you see an herbivore, a telltale sign of a mammal herbivore is this diastema. The diastema is a break between the incisors and the molars, and there's a lack of canine teeth. So right away, I can look at this diastema, this gap between the incisors and these grinding teeth, and I don't see a canine tooth. This means that these guys are herbivores. When I look at a carnivore, I see molars, premolars, canines, incisors, but look at the difference between the canines and the other teeth. The canine teeth protrude and stick out. That doesn't mean that you won't see examples of any of these animals that may have some differences in the teeth. There are some people that have really pointy canine teeth, but in general, they're all very evenly shaped. In a true carnivore, you'll definitely see larger canine teeth. The flat grinding teeth in the back, the molars, we've got sharp cutting teeth, the incisors at the front for cutting and tearing. Premolars in here are good for shearing meat off of the bone.